Marcus Thompson pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway of the Grand Belmont Hotel. The wheels made a soft squeaking sound on the shiny marble floor. It was 2 o'clock in the morning and the whole building was quiet. Most people were sleeping in their rooms upstairs. This was Marcus's favorite time to work. He liked the peace and silence of the night. Marcus was 62 years old. He had been working as a night janitor at this hotel for 3 years now. Before this job, he had worked at many other places. He had been a factory worker, a delivery driver, and a warehouse manager. Life had been hard sometimes, but Marcus never complained. He was grateful to have a job that paid his bills and let him take care of his wife, Sarah. The Grand Belmont Hotel was a beautiful old building. It had been standing in the city for almost 100 years. The walls were covered with expensive wallpaper. Big crystal lights hung from the high ceilings. Thick red carpets covered the floors in many rooms. Rich people came from all over the world to stay here. They paid a lot of money to sleep in the fancy rooms and eat in the expensive restaurants. But Marcus saw a different side of the hotel. He saw it when it was empty and quiet. He cleaned the floors that thousands of feet walked on every day. He wiped down the mirrors that reflected so many faces. He emptied the trash bins and made sure everything was perfect before the morning came and the guests woke up. Tonight, Marcus was cleaning the administrative wing of the hotel. This was the part where the managers had their offices. During the day, people in suits rushed around here carrying papers and talking on phones. But at night, it was just another quiet hallway for Marcus to clean. He started with the windows. He sprayed glass cleaner on them and wiped them with a soft cloth until they shined. Then he got down on his knees and checked the corners of the hallway for dust. Marcus took pride in his work. He might be just a janitor, but he was a good janitor. Everything had to be clean and perfect. As he stood up, something caught his eye. Behind a large decorative column, he saw something strange. There was a door. Marcus stopped and stared at it. He had cleaned this hallway many times before, but he had never noticed this door. It was painted the same color as the wall, which made it hard to see. The handle was made of old brass that had turned dark with age. Marcus walked over to the door. He touched the handle carefully. It was real. This was definitely a door, not just part of the wall decoration. But where did it lead? And why had he never seen it before? He looked around the empty hallway. Nobody was there. Nobody would see if he just took a quick look inside. Marcus reached for his key ring. He had a master key that opened most doors in the hotel. It was part of his job to be able to get into different rooms for cleaning. He put the key in the lock. It turned smoothly, like the door had been waiting for someone to open it. Marcus pulled the handle and the door swung open. Behind it was darkness. He pointed his flashlight into the opening and saw stairs going down. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. This was strange. He had worked here for 3 years and never knew these stairs existed. Where did they go? What was down there? He knew he should probably just close the door and forget about it. This might be some private area that janitors were not supposed to enter. But curiosity pulled at him like a strong rope. He had to know what was down there. Marcus looked behind him one more time. The hallway was still empty. He took a deep breath and started walking down the stairs. His flashlight beam moved across the walls as he descended. The walls were covered with old red velvet wallpaper. Some of it was peeling off. The stairs creaked under his feet. It was cold on the stairs. Marcus could see his breath in the air. The smell was old and dusty, like a room that had been closed for many years. He counted the steps as he went down. 10 steps, 20 steps, 30 steps. How far down did these stairs go? Finally, he reached the bottom. Marcus stood still and pointed his flashlight around. He was in a small lobby area. There was another door in front of him. This one was much bigger than the door at the top of the stairs. It had fancy carvings on it and 2 large handles. Marcus walked to the big door. He put his hand on one of the handles and pulled. The door was heavy, but it opened, and what Marcus saw on the other side made him forget to breathe. He was standing at the entrance to a concert hall, a real concert hall hidden underneath the hotel. Marcus stepped inside slowly, his mouth hanging open in shock. The hall was big, very big. There were rows and rows of old seats, all covered in faded red fabric. The seats faced toward a stage at the front. Heavy curtains hung on the walls, though they were torn in some places. Up on the ceiling, Marcus could see crystal chandeliers, dark and dusty but still beautiful. But the most amazing thing was on the stage. There in the center sat a grand piano. Marcus walked down the aisle between the seats. His footsteps echoed in the empty hall. Dust covered everything. The air was thick and stale. Nobody had been in this place for a very long time. That much was clear. He climbed the steps onto the stage. The old wood creaked under his weight. Marcus walked slowly toward the piano. It was covered in a thick layer of gray dust. He reached out and touched it gently. The dust came off on his fingers. This was a real piano. A beautiful grand piano. Even under all the dust and dirt, Marcus could see that it was a fine instrument. The wood was dark and rich. The keys were covered, protected by the fallboard. Marcus felt something stir deep inside his chest. He had not touched a piano in so many years. Not since he was a young man. Not since before life got hard and he had to focus on just surviving. His grandmother had taught him to play when he was a little boy. Every Sunday after church, she would sit with him at her old upright piano. Her patient hands would guide his small fingers to the right keys. She taught him simple songs at first, then harder ones. By the time he was a teenager, Marcus could play many songs from memory. He had loved playing the piano. It made him feel free and happy. Music flowed through him like water through a river. When he played, all his worries disappeared. There was only the sound of the notes and the feeling in his heart. But then life happened. His grandmother died. He had to work to help his mother pay bills. There was no time for piano lessons. No money for music classes. The piano got sold when they moved to a smaller apartment, and Marcus put away his dreams of being a musician. He became a working man instead, a man who did what he had to do to survive. Now standing in this forgotten concert hall, all those old feelings came rushing back. Marcus looked at the piano. He looked at his hands. They were old hands now with wrinkled skin and rough calluses from years of hard work. Could they still play? He knew he should not touch the piano. This place was clearly closed and forgotten. The piano might be valuable. He was just a janitor. He should go back upstairs and pretend he never found this place. But his hand reached out anyway. He lifted the fallboard that covered the keys. The keys were yellow with age, but they looked intact. Marcus pressed one key gently. Just one note. The sound that came out was clear and pure. It rang through the empty hall like a bell. Marcus felt tears come to his eyes. That sound. He had not heard that sound in so long. He pressed another key. Then another. The piano was old, but it was still in tune. Somehow, miraculously, after all these years of sitting alone in the dark, this piano could still make beautiful music. Marcus sat down on the dusty piano bench. He placed his hands on the keys. His fingers found their positions automatically, remembering what his mind had almost forgotten. And then he played. It was a simple song, a melody his grandmother had taught him when he was 7 years old. His fingers were stiff at first, stumbling over notes they used to know so well. But slowly the music came back. The notes flowed together. The melody filled the empty hall. Marcus closed his eyes. He was not in a dark, dusty concert hall anymore. He was back in his grandmother's living room. He was a little boy again, playing for the only person who ever believed he could be something special. Tears ran down his face, but he kept playing. When the song ended, Marcus sat still for a long moment. The last note faded away into silence. He opened his eyes and looked around the forgotten concert hall. This place was amazing. How could such a beautiful room be hidden and forgotten? How could this wonderful piano be left alone in the dark? Marcus looked at his watch. It was 3:30 in the morning. He had been down here for over an hour. He needed to get back to work. If someone found his cart abandoned in the hallway upstairs, there would be questions. Carefully, he closed the fallboard over the piano keys. He stood up from the bench. As he walked back toward the door, he turned to look at the stage one more time. The piano sat there in the darkness, waiting. Marcus climbed back up the long staircase. At the top, he opened the door carefully and looked out into the hallway. Everything was just as he had left it. His cart was still there. Nobody had seen him disappear. He closed the door behind him and locked it. For a moment, he just stood there, breathing hard. Had that really just happened? Had he really found a secret concert hall with a working piano? Marcus finished his cleaning work in the administrative wing. Then he moved on to the next area. But his mind was not on his work. He kept thinking about the piano. He kept hearing that clear, pure note in his mind. That night, when his shift ended at 6 in the morning, Marcus drove home as the sun was rising. His wife Sarah was in the kitchen making coffee when he came in. "Good morning," she said, kissing his cheek. How was work? It was fine, Marcus said. He did not tell her about the concert hall. He did not tell her about the piano. He was not sure why he kept it secret. Maybe because it felt like a dream. Maybe because he was afraid that if he told someone it would disappear. All day as he tried to sleep, Marcus thought about the piano. He thought about the forgotten concert hall sitting underneath the busy hotel. He thought about the music that used to fill that room long ago, and he made a decision. Tomorrow night he would go back. He would play again. The piano had been waiting in the dark for so many years. It deserved to make music again, and Marcus needed to play. His soul needed it. The next night, Marcus arrived at work an hour early. He told the evening supervisor that he wanted to get a head start on his cleaning. The supervisor just shrugged and waved him in. Nobody cared if the janitor wanted to work extra time for free. Marcus went straight to the administrative wing. He looked around to make sure he was alone. Then he opened the hidden door and descended the stairs once more. The concert hall was exactly as he had left it. Dark, dusty, and quiet. But when Marcus sat at the piano and began to play, it came alive. The beautiful sound filled the empty space, and for an hour Marcus was not a janitor anymore. He was a musician. He was the boy his grandmother believed in. He was free. This became his routine. Every night Marcus arrived early. He went down to the hidden concert hall and played for an hour before starting his cleaning work. Nobody knew. Nobody saw. It was his beautiful secret. At first his hands were slow and clumsy. He made many mistakes. But with each night he got better. His fingers remembered old songs. He tried harder pieces. He even began making up his own simple melodies, playing what he felt in his heart. The piano was his friend now. After 3 years of pushing a mop and emptying trash cans, Marcus had found something that made him feel alive again. He had found music, and music had found him, in a forgotten room beneath a grand hotel, where a dusty piano had been waiting all along for someone to set it free. 3 months passed this way. 3 months of secret morning concerts in the hidden hall. 3 months of Marcus remembering who he used to be and discovering who he still could be. The piano sounded better with each passing night. Or maybe Marcus just played better. He was not sure which, but he was happy. For the first time in many years, Marcus Thompson was truly happy. And it was all because of a door he almost did not see, stairs he almost did not descend, and a piano he almost did not touch. Sometimes the best things in life are hidden. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to open a door and see where it leads. Marcus had been brave, and his reward was music. Beautiful music, echoing through a forgotten concert hall every night as the rest of the world slept above. Marcus had been playing in the hidden concert hall for 3 months now. Every night before his shift started, he would slip down those secret stairs and spend an hour at the piano. It had become the most important part of his day. More important than sleep. More important than anything else. His playing had improved so much. At first his fingers had been stiff and slow. He made mistakes on easy songs. But the piano was patient and Marcus was determined. Night after night he practiced. His fingers grew stronger. His memory grew sharper. Songs he thought he had forgotten came flooding back. He played the simple melodies his grandmother had taught him. He played hymns from church. He played classical pieces he had learned as a teenager from library books. And slowly, carefully, he began to create his own music. New melodies that came from somewhere deep inside him. Songs about his life, his struggles, his hopes. The concert hall became his sanctuary. When he sat at that piano, he was not Marcus Thompson, the janitor. He was not the old man with tired hands and an aching back. He was just Marcus, a man making music in the dark. Sometimes while he played, Marcus imagined what this hall must have looked like long ago. He could almost see elegant people in fancy clothes sitting in those old seats. He could imagine the chandeliers blazing with light. He could hear the applause echoing off the walls. This place had been alive once. It had been full of music and joy. Why had they closed it? Why had they sealed it away and forgotten about it? These questions bothered Marcus, but he had no answers. All he knew was that he was grateful. Grateful that he had found this place. Grateful that the piano still worked. Grateful for every note he could play. On a cold January morning, Marcus arrived for his early practice session as usual. It was 4 o'clock, 2 hours before his official shift started. The hotel was dead quiet. Even the night desk clerk was dozing in his chair in the lobby. Marcus made his way to the hidden door behind the column. He unlocked it with his master key and descended the long staircase. The cold air wrapped around him like a blanket. He could see his breath in the beam of his flashlight. In the concert hall, he turned on the small work light he had brought down weeks ago. It did not light up the whole hall, but it was enough to see the piano. Marcus sat down on the bench and placed his hands on the keys. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Tonight, he decided to play something special, a piece he had been working on for the last month. It was his own composition, a melody that had come to him in dreams. It was about his grandmother, about the Sunday afternoons in her living room, about the love she had shown him and the gift of music she had given him. Marcus began to play. The notes flowed from his fingers like water, soft at first, then growing stronger. The melody rose and fell, telling a story without words. It spoke of joy and sadness, of memory and loss, of love that never dies. He was so lost in the music that he did not hear the door open. He did not hear the footsteps coming down the aisle. He did not know anyone was there until the song ended, and he heard a sound that made his blood run cold. Applause. Someone was clapping. Marcus spun around on the bench, his heart pounding. There, standing in the aisle about halfway to the stage, was a woman. She was wearing a long winter coat and expensive shoes. Even in the dim light, Marcus could see tears running down her face. He recognized her immediately. Elena Kozlov, the general manager of the Grand Belmont Hotel. His boss's boss's boss. One of the most important people in the entire building. Marcus jumped to his feet so fast he almost knocked over the piano bench. His mind raced with panic. He was trespassing. He had been coming down here for months without permission. He had been using this piano that probably cost more money than he made in a year. He was going to be fired. Maybe even arrested. "I'm so sorry," Marcus stammered, his voice shaking. "I know I shouldn't be here. I found this place by accident and I'm sorry. I'll leave right now. Please, I need this job. I have a wife. I have bills. Please don't fire me." Elena held up her hand to stop him. She walked slowly toward the stage, her eyes moving around the forgotten concert hall. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion and her accent was strong. "How long have you been playing down here?" she asked. Marcus swallowed hard. 3 months, ma'am. I come early before my shift. I don't touch anything else, I promise. Just the piano. I'm very careful. I would never damage anything." 3 months, Elena repeated softly. She climbed the steps onto the stage. She walked past Marcus and ran her hand along the top of the piano. Her fingers came away covered in dust. "And you clean this piano?" "Just a little, ma'am. Just enough to play. I didn't want to damage it by cleaning it wrong." Elena turned to look at him. The tears were still on her face, but she was smiling now. "The piece you were just playing. What was it?" It's nothing, ma'am. Just something I made up." "You composed that yourself?" Marcus nodded, too scared to speak. Elena walked to the edge of the stage and looked out at the rows of empty seats. "This concert hall," she said quietly, "was built by my great-grandfather in 1927. It was the jewel of the hotel. The most beautiful concert hall in the city. People came from everywhere to hear performances here. The greatest musicians of the time played on this very stage, on that very piano." Marcus listened, his fear slowly being replaced by curiosity. "My great-grandfather loved music more than anything," Elena continued. "He believed that a grand hotel needed a grand concert hall. He spent a fortune building this place. Look at those chandeliers, real crystal from Europe. And these seats, they were imported from France. Everything was the best quality. What happened to it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Why did they close it?" Elena sighed. "Many things. In the 1960s, the hotel had financial troubles. Fewer people came to concerts. Television was becoming popular. People wanted different entertainment. Then in the 1970s, there were some structural concerns. They said the ceiling might not be safe. It would cost too much money to fix. So they just closed it, sealed it up. They were going to demolish it, but my grandfather refused. He said someday it would open again. But it never did." "You knew it was here?" Marcus asked in surprise. "I knew," Elena said. "My father used to bring me down here when I was a little girl, before they sealed it completely. He would tell me stories about the concerts, about the famous musicians who played here. He would sit me in one of these seats and tell me to close my eyes and imagine the music." She turned back to Marcus. "But that was 40 years ago. After they put that door at the top of the stairs and painted it to blend with the wall, even I forgot exactly where it was. I have walked past that column 1,000 times. Until tonight, I did not remember the door was there. What brought you down here tonight? Marcus asked. I was working late in my office. I came out to walk around to stretch my legs. And I heard something, music. Very faint, but definitely music. I followed the sound to that column, and I saw that the hidden door was slightly open. You did not close it all the way. Marcus's face went pale. He had been so careful for 3 months, and tonight of all nights he had made a mistake. I came down the stairs, Elena continued, and I stood in that doorway listening to you play. That piece you were playing, the one you composed, it made me cry. It reminded me of my father, of sitting in those seats as a little girl dreaming of music. I'm sorry, Marcus said again. I know I should not have been here. Elena shook her head. No, do not apologize. What you did, finding this place, playing this piano, it is like you woke something up, something that has been sleeping for too long. She walked over to Marcus and looked him in the eyes. Tell me about yourself. How did you learn to play like that? So Marcus told her. He told her about his grandmother in the Sunday afternoons. He told her about loving music but having to give it up. He told her about working hard jobs all his life just to survive. He told her about finding the hidden door 3 months ago and being unable to resist the piano. I just wanted to play again, he said, just for myself, just to remember what it felt like. I was not hurting anyone. The piano was just sitting here in the dark, not being used. I thought maybe I could give it some purpose again. Give myself some purpose, too. Elena was quiet for a long time. She looked at the piano, at the stage, at the forgotten concert hall around them. Then she looked at Marcus again. I have an idea, she said, but it is a big idea, and I need to think about it carefully. Can you meet me in my office tomorrow evening? Say 6 o'clock? Tomorrow is my day off, ma'am, Marcus said. But yes, I can come. Good. And Marcus, please do not worry. You are not in trouble. I promise you that. She started to walk toward the door, then turned back. One more thing. That piece you were playing, the one you composed, it was beautiful. Really beautiful. Your grandmother would be very proud. Then she was gone, climbing back up the stairs and leaving Marcus alone with the piano and his racing thoughts. Marcus did not sleep well that day. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what Elena wanted to talk about. Was she really not angry? Or was she just being polite before she fired him? What was this big idea she mentioned? His wife Sarah noticed he was distracted. What's wrong? She asked. Did something happen at work? Marcus almost told her everything. But he stopped himself. He wanted to wait until after his meeting with Elena. He did not want to worry Sarah until he knew what was going to happen. Just tired, he said. Long night. The next evening, Marcus put on his best clothes. He only owned one nice shirt and one pair of dress pants, the ones he wore to church. He wanted to look respectable. He wanted Elena to see that he was a good man, not just a janitor who broke the rules. He arrived at the hotel at 6 o'clock exactly. The lobby was busy with guests checking in and out. Marcus felt out of place in his cheap church clothes among all these rich people in their expensive outfits. But he walked through the lobby with his head up. He had every right to be here. Elena had invited him. He took the elevator to the top floor where the executive offices were. The secretary told him to go right in. Elena was waiting for him. Her office was beautiful. Big windows looked out over the city. Expensive furniture filled the room. On the walls hung old photographs of the hotel from different decades. Marcus, thank you for coming, Elena said, standing up from behind her desk. Please sit down. Marcus sat in one of the comfortable chairs in front of her desk. His hands were shaking slightly, so he folded them in his lap. Elena sat down across from him. She looked at him seriously. I have been thinking about what I saw last night, about you playing that piano in the forgotten concert hall, and I have made a decision. Marcus held his breath. The Grand Belmont Hotel will celebrate its 100th anniversary in 6 months, Elena said. We are planning a big celebration. Special events, parties, ceremonies. It is a very important milestone. She paused, then continued. I want to restore the concert hall. I want to bring it back to its former glory. And I want to host a grand reopening concert as part of the anniversary celebration. Marcus stared at her. That's wonderful, ma'am. Your great-grandfather would be so happy. Yes, Elena said. But here is the important part. I want you to perform at that concert." For a moment, Marcus was sure he had heard wrong. "Excuse me?" "I want you to be the pianist. You will perform at the grand reopening of the concert hall." "But ma'am, I'm just a janitor. I'm not a real pianist. I have not performed for an audience in 40 years. I just play for myself." "What I heard last night was not just playing for yourself," Elena said firmly. "That was real music. Music from the heart. And that is exactly what this concert hall needs for its reopening. Not some famous pianist who plays the same old songs everyone has heard before, but someone who really loves this place. Someone who woke it up from its long sleep." Marcus shook his head. "I can't. I would be too nervous. I would make mistakes." "Then you will practice," Elena said. "For the next 6 months you will practice every day. We will have the piano maintained and tuned properly. We will restore the hall around you. And when the time comes, you will play." She leaned forward. "Marcus, do you know what your music did to me last night? It made me remember why this place matters. It made me feel connected to my great-grandfather and my father. Your music brought that hall back to life, and I believe it can do the same for many other people." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. This was too much. It was too big. It was impossible. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, maybe it was possible. Maybe this was why he had found that hidden door. Maybe this was what he was meant to do. "I don't know if I can," he said honestly. "I believe you can," Elena said, "and I will help you. We will do this together." She stood up and held out her hand. "What do you say, Marcus Thompson? Will you help me bring the concert hall back to life?" Marcus stood up slowly. He looked at her hand. Then he reached out and shook it. "Yes," he said. "I'll try," Elena smiled. "Good, then let us begin." The next morning, Marcus told Sarah everything. He told her about finding the hidden concert hall 3 months ago. He told her about playing the piano every night before work. He told her about Elena finding him and the incredible plan to restore the hall. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her coffee cup frozen halfway to her mouth, listening to her husband's story with wide eyes. "You've been going down to some secret room every night for 3 months and you didn't tell me?" she asked when he finished. Marcus looked down at his hands. "I know, I'm sorry. At first I thought I was dreaming. Then I was afraid if I told anyone it would disappear, or I would get in trouble." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took his hands in hers. "Marcus Thompson, you never cease to amaze me. After all these years, you finally found your music again. Are you angry?" he asked. "Angry? No, I'm proud of you. Scared for you, yes. This is a big thing they're asking you to do. But proud." She squeezed his hands. "Your grandmother would be so happy." "I'm terrified," Marcus admitted. "What if I mess up? What if I freeze in front of all those people? I'm 62 years old, Sarah. I'm a janitor, not a concert pianist." "You're a man who loves music," Sarah said firmly. "You're a man who made a dusty old piano sing again in a forgotten room. That's what matters. Not your age. Not your job. Just your heart." Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears. "I don't know if I can do this." "Then we'll find out together," Sarah said. "You practice and I'll support you, just like always." That week, everything changed for Marcus. Elena called a meeting with the hotel's board of directors. She presented her plan to restore the concert hall for the centennial celebration. At first, some board members were skeptical. It would cost a lot of money. The hall had been closed for 50 years. Why bring it back now? But Elena was persuasive. She showed them old photographs of the hall in its glory days. She talked about the hotel's history and the vision of her great-grandfather. She explained how the reopening would generate publicity and attract guests. She made them see that this was not just about music. It was about honoring the past and investing in the future. After 3 hours of discussion, the board voted yes. They would allocate funds for the restoration. The concert hall would open again. Elena called Marcus to give him the news. "We have approval," she said. "Work will begin next week." "Next week?" Marcus felt his stomach flip. "That's so soon. We have 6 months to get everything ready. That's not much time. The contractors need to start immediately. But don't worry, you can still practice. We'll work around your schedule." And so the restoration began. Marcus arrived at work that next Monday to find the hidden door propped open. Construction workers were carrying equipment down the stairs. The secret passage he had walked alone for 3 months was now full of activity. The transformation was remarkable to watch. Every night, Marcus saw new progress. First, the workers installed proper lighting. The dim, dusty concert hall was suddenly bright. Marcus could see details he had never noticed before. Intricate carvings on the walls, painted designs on the ceiling. The full beauty of the space revealed. Then they cleaned everything. Teams of specialists came in with special equipment to gently clean the old seats, the curtains, the walls. They removed years of dust and dirt without damaging the antique materials. The red fabric of the seats began to glow again. The gold trim on the walls started to shine. The chandeliers were taken down one by one. Crystal by crystal, they were cleaned and repaired. Marcus watched workers carefully rewiring them, replacing broken pieces, polishing every surface. When they were rehung and turned on for the first time, the concert hall blazed with light. It was breathtaking, but the most important work was on the piano. A master piano technician came from New York. His name was Mr. Chen, and he had been maintaining pianos for 40 years. He spent a whole week examining Marcus's piano. "This is a very special instrument," Mr. Chen told Marcus and Elena. "It was made in 1925 by the Steinway Company, one of the finest pianos they ever produced. It's a miracle it survived in such good condition after being abandoned for so long." "Can it be restored?" Elena asked. Mr. Chen smiled. "It doesn't need much restoration. It needs maintenance and love. Someone has been playing it recently, yes?" Marcus raised his hand sheepishly. "That was me." "You kept it alive," Mr. Chen said. "A piano that sits unused dies slowly, but you played it. You kept the mechanisms moving. You gave it purpose. That's why it still sings so beautifully." Over the next 2 weeks, Mr. Chen worked his magic on the piano. He tuned every string. He adjusted every hammer. He cleaned and polished every surface. When he was done, the piano looked and sounded better than Marcus had ever imagined possible. "Now," Mr. Chen said to Marcus, "you must play it every day. Promise me. This piano has been given a second life. Don't let it forget how to sing." "I promise," Marcus said. His practice schedule became more structured. Elena arranged for him to have official practice time in the concert hall. From 4 to 6 every morning before his janitor shift started, the hall was his. No construction workers. No interruptions. Just Marcus and the piano and the slowly transforming space around him. At first, Marcus felt strange playing in the bright, restored hall. He had grown used to the darkness and dust. The beauty of the renovated space was overwhelming. The chandeliers sparkled above him. The seats looked elegant again. It felt like a real concert hall, not his secret hideaway. But the piano felt the same under his fingers. And when he closed his eyes and played, nothing else mattered. Just the music. Elena started joining him sometimes. She would slip into the hall quietly and sit in one of the restored seats. She never spoke during his practice. She just listened. Her presence made Marcus nervous at first, but eventually he got used to it. One morning, after he finished playing a particularly difficult piece, Elena came up to the stage. "That was beautiful," she said. "But I noticed you seem tense. Your shoulders are up by your ears." "I'm nervous," Marcus admitted. "Every time I think about performing in front of hundreds of people, I get scared." "May I make a suggestion?" Elena asked. "Of course. When you play, don't think about the audience. Don't think about the hundreds of people. Think about one person, your grandmother. Play for her. Let everyone else just listen in." Marcus thought about this. "Play for my grandmother?" "Yes, you told me she taught you to play. That she believed in you. When you sit at this piano, imagine she is sitting in the front row. You are playing just for her. No one else matters." Marcus tried this in his next practice session. He closed his eyes and pictured his grandmother in the front row. Her kind face, her encouraging smile. He imagined playing for her like he used to on Sunday afternoons. It worked. His shoulders relaxed. His playing became more fluid, more natural. The fear receded, replaced by love and memory. After that, Marcus always played for his grandmother. Even though she had been gone for 40 years, she was alive again in his music. And that made everything easier. As the weeks passed, Marcus grew more confident. His fingers were stronger than they had ever been. His memory was sharp. He could play complex pieces now without sheet music. The music lived inside him. Elena brought in a music teacher to work with Marcus once a week. Her name was Professor Williams, and she taught at the local university. At first, Marcus was intimidated by her. She was a real music professor with degrees and awards. What could she possibly teach an old janitor? But Professor Williams was kind and patient. She did not talk down to Marcus. She treated him like a serious musician. She helped him refine his technique. She suggested new pieces for him to learn. She encouraged him to trust his instincts when he composed his own music. "You have a gift," she told him after their third session. "A natural gift. It's rare to find someone who plays with such genuine emotion. Most students I teach are technically perfect but emotionally empty. You are the opposite. You feel every note. Is that good?" Marcus asked. "It's wonderful," Professor Williams said. "Technique can be taught. But what you have, that connection to the music, that comes from the soul. Don't ever lose that." News of the concert hall restoration began to spread. The hotel's marketing department wrote press releases. Local newspapers ran stories about the forgotten concert hall being brought back to life. They mentioned the centennial celebration and the grand reopening concert. What they did not mention yet was who would be performing. Elena wanted to keep that secret for as long as possible. She knew that once people found out the performer was a janitor, not a famous pianist, there might be criticism. She wanted to reveal that detail at the right time. But within the hotel, word got around. The staff learned that Marcus, the quiet night janitor, was going to perform at the grand reopening. Reactions were mixed. Some people were supportive. "That's amazing, Marcus," said Rita, one of the housekeepers. "I always knew you were special." Others were skeptical. "A janitor performing at a grand concert?" whispered some of the front desk staff. "The hotel must be desperate." Marcus heard the whispers. They hurt. But Sarah reminded him every day, don't listen to them. Listen to your heart. Listen to your grandmother. That's all that matters. Marcus also had doubts. Late at night, when he could not sleep, he worried. What if he was not good enough? What if people laughed at him? What if he embarrassed Elena in the hotel? But then he would remember the feeling of playing the piano in the restored concert hall, the joy of making music, the connection to his grandmother and to something larger than himself. And he would decide to keep going, to keep practicing, to keep believing. 3 months into the restoration, the concert hall was nearly finished. The seats were all repaired and reupholstered. The walls were cleaned and painted. The chandeliers sparkled. New carpet had been laid in the aisles. The stage had been refinished. It looked magnificent. Elena organized a private preview for the hotel's board of directors. She wanted them to see what their investment had created. Marcus was asked to play something for them. His hand shook as he sat at the piano. These were important people. Rich people. People who could shut down the whole project if they were not satisfied. "Remember," Elena whispered to him before he started, "play for your grandmother." No one else. Marcus closed his eyes. He pictured his grandmother in the front row, and he played the piece he had composed about her. The one Elena had first heard. The one that had started everything. When the last note faded, there was silence. Marcus opened his eyes, terrified. Had he done badly? Then the applause started. The board members were standing, clapping. Some of them had tears in their eyes. "That was extraordinary," said Mr. Patterson, the chairman of the board. "Absolutely extraordinary. Elena, you were right. This is exactly what this hall needs." Marcus felt his whole body relax with relief. They liked it. They really liked it. After the board members left, Elena came up to the stage. She was beaming. "You did it, Marcus. You won them over completely." "I was so scared," Marcus admitted. "I know, but you did not let fear stop you. That's courage." With 3 months left until the centennial celebration, preparations intensified. Invitations were designed and sent out. The concert was scheduled for a Saturday night in June. Tickets would be free, but they were limited. The concert hall could hold only 300 people. The marketing team created posters and advertisements. They described the historic reopening of the Grand Belmont Concert Hall. They promised an evening of classical music and original compositions. But they still did not reveal who would be performing. "We'll announce the performer 1 month before the concert," Elena decided. "That gives people time to hear about you, but not enough time for negative publicity to build." Marcus continued his daily practice. He had his program mostly planned now. He would play a mix of classical pieces and his own compositions. Professor Williams helped him arrange everything to flow smoothly from one piece to the next. Sarah came to watch him practice several times. She sat in the beautiful restored hall and listened to her husband play. Afterward, she would hug him tight and tell him how proud she was. "Do you remember when we first met?" she asked him one day.
You were working at that factory.
You look so tired all the time, so worn down. I remember, Marcus said. Now look at you. You're alive again. The music brought you back to life. Marcus thought about this. She was right. For years, he had just been going through the motions, working, sleeping, surviving. He had forgotten what it felt like to have passion, to have purpose. The piano had given him both. One evening, about 2 months before the concert, something special happened. Marcus was practicing a particularly difficult passage. He had been working on it for weeks, and his fingers kept stumbling on a complicated run of notes. He tried it again and again. Each time he made the same mistake. Frustration built inside him. He was about to give up when he heard a voice. Try slowing it down. Focus on each individual note before you speed it up. Marcus turned around. A young woman was standing in the aisle. She looked about 25 years old. She was wearing a hotel uniform. One of the front desk clerks. "I'm sorry," she said. "I heard you playing and I couldn't help myself. I used to play piano. Before I had to drop out of music school." "Why did you drop out?" Marcus asked. "Money. My family couldn't afford it anymore, so I got a job here at the hotel. I always thought I would go back someday, but..." She shrugged. "Life gets in the way." "What's your name?" Marcus asked. "Jennifer." "Well, Jennifer, I appreciate the advice. Would you like to show me what you mean?" Jennifer's face lit up. She came up to the stage and sat at the piano. She played the difficult passage slowly, explaining each note. Then she gradually increased the speed. Her fingers moved smoothly over the keys. "You're very good," Marcus said. "Thank you. You're good too. I've been listening to you practice for weeks. You're the janitor, right? The one who's going to perform at the reopening?" "That's me," Marcus said, "though I'm not sure I'm good enough." "You are," Jennifer said firmly. "I can hear it in your playing. You have something special, something real." From that night on, Jennifer would sometimes visit Marcus during his practice sessions. She would offer suggestions, demonstrate techniques, and encourage him when he struggled. She became his friend and unofficial coach. "Why don't you start playing again?" Marcus asked her one morning. "If you love music this much." "I don't have a piano," Jennifer said. "And lessons are expensive." Maybe someday, Marcus thought about this. Later that day, he talked to Elena. "What if we offered music classes here, after the concert hall reopens? Lessons for hotel staff and their families. Free or low cost. People like Jennifer who love music but can't afford to pursue it." Elena's eyes widened. "That's a wonderful idea, Marcus. Yes, let's do that. We'll make it part of the concert hall's new purpose. Not just performances, but education too." When Marcus told Jennifer about the plan, she cried. "You would do that, really?" "Music saved my life," Marcus said. "Maybe it can help others too." As May arrived, Marcus felt ready. His program was polished. His confidence was growing. The concert hall was finished and looked spectacular. Everything was coming together. Then Elena made the announcement. She held a press conference at the hotel. Reporters from newspapers, radio, and television came. She told them about Marcus, about how he had discovered the hidden concert hall and played the piano back to life, about how a janitor would perform at the grand reopening. The reaction was immediate and mixed. Some reporters thought it was a beautiful story, a real-life fairy tale. Others were critical. They questioned whether a janitor could really perform at a high enough level. They wondered if this was just a publicity stunt. The criticism stung Marcus. He read the negative articles and felt his confidence waver. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was not good enough. But then letters started arriving at the hotel. Letters from regular people who had read the story. Letters from working-class folks who said Marcus represented them. Letters from older people who had given up on their dreams and were inspired to try again. Letters from music lovers who said they could not wait to hear him play. One letter made Marcus cry. It was from a woman in a nursing home. She wrote, "I am 89 years old. I played piano when I was young, but life made me stop. Your story reminds me that it is never too late. Thank you for showing us that dreams do not have an expiration date. I will be listening to your concert on the radio and cheering for you." Marcus realized then that this concert was bigger than him. It was not just about whether he played perfectly. It was about what he represented. Hope, second chances, the power of music to transform lives. He was ready to tell that story. 1 month before the concert, Marcus started having nightmares. In his dreams, he would sit at the piano in front of a packed concert hall. He would place his hands on the keys and nothing would happen. His fingers would not move. Or worse, they would play all the wrong notes. The audience would laugh and walk out. He would wake up in a cold sweat, his heart pounding. "You're going to be fine," Sarah told him every morning. "It's just nerves." "Every performer gets nervous." "But I'm not a real performer," Marcus said. "What if I freeze up there? What if my mind goes blank?" "Then you'll take a breath and start again," Sarah said practically. "People will understand. They're coming to support you, not to judge you." But Marcus was not so sure. The pressure was building. The local news kept running stories about the concert. The hotel was receiving calls from people all over the country who wanted to attend. Some famous musicians had even expressed interest in coming. Elena tried to reassure him. "Marcus, everyone who is coming to this concert is rooting for you. They want to see you succeed. This is not like performing for critics or snobs. These are regular people who love your story." "That almost makes it worse," Marcus said. "I don't want to disappoint them." Professor Williams worked with him on performance anxiety. She taught him breathing exercises. She made him practice performing for small groups of hotel staff to get used to having an audience. She reminded him that mistakes were human, and that the audience would forgive small errors as long as he played with heart. "The worst thing you can do is play it safe," she told him. "Don't hold back because you're afraid of making mistakes. Give them everything. Play with your whole soul. That's what will move them." Jennifer also helped in her own way. During Marcus's practice sessions, she would sit in different parts of the concert hall. Sometimes close to the stage, sometimes in the back. She wanted him to get used to seeing someone out there in the seats. "Pretend I'm a friendly face in the audience," she said. "On the night of the concert, find one friendly face and play for them. Just like Elena told you to play for your grandmother." Marcus appreciated all the support, but the fear remained. It lived in his stomach like a cold stone. Every time he thought about the concert, the stone got heavier. 2 weeks before the concert, Elena made an announcement to Marcus that both excited and terrified him. "I've arranged for a dress rehearsal," she said, 3 days before the actual concert. "We'll invite 50 people, hotel staff, board members, a few friends. You'll perform your entire program as if it's the real thing." 50 people? Marcus felt dizzy. That's a lot. "It's less than the 300 who will be there for the real concert," Elena pointed out. "Think of it as practice. If something goes wrong, better to find out during the rehearsal than during the actual performance." Marcus could not argue with that logic, but the knowledge that he would soon be performing for 50 people made his practice sessions harder. His fingers, which had become so confident over the months, started making mistakes again. His mind kept jumping ahead to the rehearsal, to the real concert, and he could not focus on the present moment. Professor Williams noticed. "You're thinking too much," she told him. "You're letting fear into your music. Remember why you play. Not for perfection, for joy, for love, for your grandmother." Marcus tried to take her advice to heart. He went back to basics. He played the simple songs his grandmother had taught him first. He let himself feel the music instead of thinking about it. Slowly, his confidence returned. The night before the dress rehearsal, Marcus could not sleep at all. He lay in bed watching the ceiling, his mind racing. At 3 a.m, he got up and drove to the hotel. He let himself into the concert hall and sat at the piano in the dark. He did not turn on the lights. He did not play. He just sat there, his hands resting on the keys, feeling the smooth ivory beneath his fingers. This piano had become his friend over the past 6 months. They had been through so much together. The piano had taught him that music never really dies. It just waits for someone to wake it up. "Please don't let me down tomorrow," Marcus whispered to the piano. "Help me share what we found together." The next evening, 50 people filled the first few rows of the concert hall. Marcus watched from backstage as they took their seats. He recognized many of them. Rita, the housekeeper, was there with her family. Jennifer sat in the 3rd row, giving him a thumbs up. The hotel's board members sat together on one side. Professor Williams was there, and in the front row, Sarah sat with tears already in her eyes. Elena came backstage to check on him. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Terrified," Marcus said honestly. His hands were shaking. His mouth was dry. "That's normal," Elena said. "But remember, these people are all on your side. They want you to succeed. Just go out there and play from your heart." The lights dimmed. Elena walked out onto the stage to introduce Marcus. She told the audience about how he had discovered the concert hall, about how his playing had inspired the restoration, about how he represented the spirit of second chances and the power of following your dreams. Then she called Marcus to the stage. Walking out from backstage was the longest walk of Marcus's life. His legs felt weak. The spotlight was bright in his eyes. The 50 people in the audience suddenly looked like 500. He could barely breathe. He sat at the piano bench. His hands were shaking so badly he had to clasp them together in his lap. He looked out at the audience and felt panic rising in his throat. He could not do this. He was going to fail. Then he saw Sarah in the front row. She was smiling at him with so much love and pride. And next to her in his mind he saw his grandmother. Her kind face, her encouraging smile, both of them believing in him. Marcus placed his hands on the keys. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. And he began to play. The first few notes were shaky, but then the music took over. His fingers found their way. The melody flowed. He forgot about the audience. He forgot about his fear. There was only the music and the piano and the connection between his heart and his hands. He played his entire program. Classical pieces that had challenged him. His own compositions that told the story of his life. For 45 minutes, Marcus played without stopping. And when he finished the final piece, he opened his eyes. The audience was standing. They were applauding. Some were crying. Sarah was crying. Professor Williams was crying. Even some of the tough board members had tears in their eyes. Marcus stood up and bowed awkwardly. He was not used to taking bows. But the applause continued. It washed over him like warm water, washing away his fear. Backstage afterward, people crowded around him. Everyone wanted to shake his hand, to congratulate him, to tell him how moved they were by his playing. "That was incredible," Jennifer said, hugging him. "I knew you could do it." "Your grandmother was smiling down on you," Sarah whispered, holding him tight. Elena was beaming. "Marcus, that was everything I hoped for and more. If you play like that at the real concert, it will be magical." Professor Williams pulled him aside. "You found it," she said. "That connection I talked about. You were not just playing the piano tonight. You were telling a story. You were sharing your soul. That's what makes a true musician." Marcus felt lighter than he had in weeks. The dress rehearsal had worked. He could do this. He really could. The final 2 weeks passed quickly. Marcus practiced every day, but now with confidence instead of fear. The local media coverage intensified. The story of the janitor pianist had captured people's imagination. Marcus was interviewed on the radio. A television crew came to film him practicing. Magazines wrote articles about him. Some of the attention was uncomfortable for Marcus. He was a private person who had spent his life in the background. Suddenly being in the spotlight felt strange, but he understood that the story was bigger than him. It was about possibility, about the music that lives inside everyone, waiting to be released. On the day before the concert, Marcus took the day off from work. He spent it quietly at home with Sarah. They looked through old photo albums. They talked about his grandmother and the Sunday afternoons learning piano. They remembered all the years of hard work and struggle that had led to this moment. "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you had pursued music when you were young?" Sarah asked. Marcus thought about this. "Sometimes. But then I realized that if I had, I might not have met you. I might not have learned all the lessons that hard work taught me. Maybe I needed to live all those years before I was ready to really understand what music means." "That's very wise," Sarah said. "Or maybe I'm just getting old," Marcus said with a smile. That night, Marcus went to the concert hall one last time alone. He sat at the piano in the empty hall and played just for himself. No pressure, no audience, just a man and a piano and the music they made together. "Thank you," he said to the piano when he finished. "Thank you for waiting for me." The day of the concert arrived. Marcus woke up early, his stomach full of butterflies. He spent the morning trying to relax. He took a long walk. He ate a light lunch. He avoided thinking about the evening ahead. At 4 o'clock, he began getting ready. He put on the tuxedo that Elena had rented for him. It was the nicest thing he had ever worn. Sarah helped him with his bow tie, her hands gentle and steady. "You look so handsome," she said, her eyes shining. "Like a real concert pianist." "I am a real concert pianist," Marcus said, surprising himself. "Maybe I always was. I just forgot for a while." They arrived at the hotel at 6. The concert was scheduled for 8 o'clock. People were already lining up outside, even though it was 2 hours early. Marcus saw the line from the car and felt his heart race. All those people, he breathed. All those people who believe in you, Sarah corrected. Backstage, Elena was managing 100 details. The sound system was being tested. The lighting crew was making final adjustments. Photographers were setting up their equipment. The energy was electric. The hall is sold out, Elena told Marcus. Every seat filled. And we have a waiting list of 200 people. We're going to stream it live on the radio too, so people across the city can listen. Marcus felt dizzy. This was so much bigger than he had imagined. Jennifer came backstage to wish him luck. I have something for you, she said. She handed him a small envelope. Don't open it now. Read it after the concert. Professor Williams arrived next. Remember, she said, no matter what happens out there, you have already succeeded. You brought this concert hall back to life. You inspired hundreds of people. That's the real victory. The performance is just icing on the cake. At 7:30, the doors opened and the audience began filing in. Marcus watched from behind the curtain as the concert hall filled up. He saw hotel staff members he worked with every day. He saw board members in their expensive suits. He saw strangers who had come just because they heard his story. He saw children, elderly people, families, couples, all of them taking their seats, talking excitedly, looking at their programs. The concert hall that had been dark and forgotten for 50 years was alive again. Full of people, full of light, full of anticipation. At 7:55, Elena came to get Marcus. It's time, she said. Marcus's hands were shaking again, but this time it was different. It was not just fear. It was excitement, too. He was about to share something precious with all these people. He was about to give them the gift his grandmother had given him so many years ago. Sarah hugged him one more time. Play for her, she whispered. Play for Grandma. And play for yourself. That's all you need to do. The lights dimmed. The audience grew quiet. Elena walked out onto the stage to introduce Marcus. She told his story one more time, her voice full of emotion. Then she said the words that made it real. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marcus Thompson. Marcus walked out onto the stage. The applause was thunderous. The lights were bright. The audience was a sea of faces. But Marcus found Sarah in the front row. And next to her, in his mind, he found his grandmother. He sat at the piano. He placed his hands on the keys. He closed his eyes and took a breath. And then he began to play, and the hidden concert hall was hidden no more. The first note rang out clear and pure. It filled the concert hall and seemed to hang in the air like something you could touch. Marcus felt the piano respond to his touch, and in that moment, all his fear disappeared. There was only the music. He began with a classical piece by Bach, his grandmother's favorite. The melody was simple but beautiful, each note following the next with perfect logic. Marcus's fingers moved across the keys with confidence. He was not thinking about technique or performance. He was simply letting the music flow through him. The audience sat in complete silence. Not the uncomfortable silence of boredom, but the profound silence of people truly listening. Marcus could feel their attention like a warm presence around him. They were with him on this journey. After the Bach piece, he transitioned into Beethoven, a more dramatic piece full of emotion and power. Marcus's hands flew across the keys. He leaned into the music, his whole body moving with the rhythm. This was the piece that had challenged him the most during practice. The piece he had been most worried about. But now, in this moment, it felt effortless. When the dramatic final chords faded, there was a pause. Then applause erupted, but Marcus barely heard it. He was already moving into the next piece, keeping the program flowing as Professor Williams had taught him. He played Chopin. He played Debussy. He played pieces that ranged from delicate and light to deep and powerful. And with each piece, Marcus felt more connected to the audience. He could sense their emotional response. When he played something sad, he felt their sadness. When he played something joyful, he felt their joy lifting him up. After 30 minutes, he reached the part of the program he had been both eager and nervous to perform. His own compositions, the pieces he had written about his life, music that came from his own heart, not from famous composers who had been dead for centuries. He paused for a moment and looked up at the audience. This next piece, he said quietly, his voice amplified by the microphone Elena had insisted on. is called Sunday Afternoons. It's about my grandmother, who taught me to play piano when I was 7 years old. She passed away 40 years ago, but when I play, she's still with me." The audience was silent. Marcus placed his hands on the keys and began to play. The melody was gentle and warm, like a hug. It spoke of childhood memories, of patient hands guiding small fingers, of love that transcends time and death. Marcus poured everything into this piece. All his gratitude, all his love, all his grief for the years without music. As he played, tears ran down his face. He did not try to hide them. This music was truth, and truth sometimes comes with tears. When the piece ended, Marcus looked up. In the front row, Sarah was crying. Next to her, several other audience members were wiping their eyes. The applause was not loud this time, but it was deep and sustained. The kind of applause that says, "You have touched us. You have moved us." Marcus continued with his other original compositions, a piece about working night shifts, about the quiet beauty of the hotel in darkness, a piece about his marriage to Sarah, about love that grows stronger through years of struggle, a piece about finding the hidden concert hall, about discovery and second chances. Each piece told a story, and the audience listened to every note, every pause, every emotional shift. Marcus was not just playing for them anymore. He was playing with them. They were all part of the music together. For the final piece, Marcus had chosen something special. He had been working on it for the past month, keeping it secret even from Professor Williams. It was called The Piano Waits, and it was about the piano itself. About sitting alone in the dark for 50 years, silent but not dead, waiting for someone to wake it up, waiting for someone to make it sing again. The piece began slowly with single notes far apart, like a heartbeat slowing down. Then gradually more notes entered. The rhythm quickened. The melody grew more complex. It built and built, becoming fuller and richer until finally it burst into a triumphant celebration of sound. Music freed from silence. Life awakened from sleep. Marcus played the final crashing chords with all his strength. The sound filled the concert hall, bouncing off the walls, echoing in the high ceiling. And when the last vibration faded into silence, Marcus lifted his hands from the keys and sat very still. For a moment, nothing happened. The audience seemed frozen. Then, as if one person, they rose to their feet. The applause was deafening. It rolled over Marcus in waves. People were shouting and cheering. Some were crying. The ovation went on and on. Marcus stood up and bowed. He was shaking, not with fear now, but with emotion and exhaustion. He had given everything he had to this performance. He had held nothing back, and the audience had received it with open hearts. Elena came onto the stage with a huge bouquet of flowers. She hugged Marcus, whispering, "You did it. You really did it." Then she turned to the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said into the microphone, "this is what can happen when we give people a chance, when we believe in possibilities instead of limitations." Marcus Thompson is not a famous concert pianist.
He is a janitor at this hotel.
But tonight he showed us that titles do not matter. What matters is the music in your heart and the courage to share it. The applause started again. Marcus bowed once more, then made his way backstage. His legs felt like rubber. His hands were trembling. But his heart was full. Backstage was chaos. People crowded around him, congratulating him, hugging him, telling him how moved they were. Sarah pushed through the crowd and threw her arms around him. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." She sobbed into his shoulder. "Your grandmother was there. I felt her. She was so proud of you." Jennifer was there, crying happy tears. "You were amazing. I can't believe what you did out there. You inspired everyone." Professor Williams shook his hand firmly. "Marcus, I have been teaching music for 30 years. I have heard countless performances, but what you did tonight was special. You played with complete authenticity. That's something you cannot teach. That's something that comes from the soul." The celebration continued for hours. A reception had been set up in the hotel's ballroom. The audience members came to meet Marcus, to shake his hand, to tell him their stories. So many people said his performance had touched something deep inside them, had reminded them of their own abandoned dreams, had given them hope. An elderly man with tears in his eyes told Marcus, "I gave up playing violin 60 years ago. I thought I was too old to start again. But after hearing you tonight, I'm going to find my old violin in the attic. It's never too late, is it?" "It's never too late," Marcus agreed. A young woman told him, "I've been working a job I hate because it pays well. But I used to love painting. You've inspired me to make time for art again, even if it's just an hour a week. A middle-aged man said, I've been telling my daughter she can't pursue music because it's not practical. After hearing your story and your music, I realize I've been wrong. Tomorrow I'm going to apologize to her and support her dreams. Story after story, person after person, Marcus realized that his music had done more than entertain. It had opened something in people. It had given them permission to remember their own dreams, to believe in their own possibilities. Late in the evening, Marcus finally had a moment alone with Sarah. They slipped away from the reception and walked through the quiet hotel corridors. Without planning it, Marcus led her to the hidden door behind the column. This is where it all started, he said, opening the door. They descended the stairs together and entered the concert hall. The lights were dimmed now, but the stage was still lit. The piano sat there, waiting as always. Come sit with me, Marcus said, leading Sarah to the piano bench. They sat together, looking out at the empty seats. Just hours ago, this hall had been full of people, full of energy and emotion. Now it was quiet again. But it was not the sad quiet of abandonment. It was the peaceful quiet of fulfillment. I need to tell you something, Sarah said. When you were playing tonight, I realized something. For years, I thought you were happy. You worked hard, you never complained, you always took care of us. But tonight, when I saw you playing, I realized what true happiness looks like. I had never seen that look on your face before, that joy, that complete presence. Marcus took her hand. I was happy with you. I am happy with you. But you're right. There was something missing. I did not even know it was missing until I found it again. The music, Sarah said. The music, Marcus agreed, but also the permission to be myself. To admit that I was more than just a man who worked hard. I was a man who loved beauty and art and expression. I was allowed to be that person again. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus played something soft and gentle just for Sarah, a simple melody about love and gratitude. The next morning, Marcus woke up to find his story on the front page of the city's newspaper. Janitor's concert brings Hidden Hall back to life, read the headline. There was a photo of him at the piano, his face radiant with emotion. His phone started ringing early. News stations wanted interviews. Magazines wanted to write feature stories. Other hotels called, wanting to know if Marcus would perform for them. It was overwhelming. Marcus was not sure how to handle all the attention, but Elena helped him navigate it. Together they decided that Marcus would do a few interviews to share his story, but he would not let it take over his life. You are not a celebrity, Elena told him wisely. You are a man who loves music. Don't let the fame change that. In the weeks after the concert, Elena and Marcus worked together to fulfill the promise they had made. They established a music program at the hotel, free lessons for hotel staff and their families. They hired 2 music teachers, including Jennifer, who gladly left her front desk job to teach piano full-time. The concert hall hosted performances twice a month. Sometimes professional musicians played, sometimes students from the music program. And once a month, Marcus gave a concert. These performances always sold out immediately, but Marcus also kept his janitorial job. He still worked night shifts, still cleaned floors and emptied trash cans. Some people thought this was strange. Why continue being a janitor when he could be a full-time musician? But Marcus knew why. The janitorial work kept him grounded. It reminded him where he came from, and there was dignity in that work. He had always known that. The music had not made him more valuable as a person. It had just revealed a part of him that was always there. One day, about 2 months after the concert, Marcus received a package in the mail. It was from the nursing home woman who had written to him before the concert. Inside was a letter and a photograph. Dear Marcus, the letter read, After hearing your concert on the radio, I asked my granddaughter to bring my old piano from storage to the nursing home common room. At 89 years old, I played piano again for the first time in 65 years. I enclose a photograph of me at the piano. Look closely and you will see I am smiling. Thank you for reminding me that dreams do not expire. With gratitude, Eleanor. The photograph showed a very old woman with white hair sitting at an upright piano. Her hands were on the keys and her face wore an expression of pure joy. Marcus put the photograph on his refrigerator where he could see it every day. This, he realized, was the real gift of music. Not the applause or the recognition or the newspaper headlines, but the way it connected people. The way it reminded everyone of their humanity. The way it said, you are more than your job. You are more than your age. You are more than what the world sees. Inside you is something beautiful, waiting to be expressed. 6 months after the concert, the Grand Belmont Hotel celebrated its centennial anniversary with a week of special events. The concert hall hosted performances every night. Famous musicians came. Local students played. And on the final night, Marcus performed again. This time he was not nervous. He knew what he wanted to share. He played some of the same pieces from his first concert, but he also premiered new compositions. Music about transformation and hope. Music about hidden rooms in ourselves that wait to be discovered. The audience included many familiar faces. Sarah in the front row, as always. Elena and the hotel board. Jennifer and the other music teachers. Professor Williams. But there were also new faces. People who had heard his story and traveled from far away to hear him play. And in Marcus's mind, in that special front row seat that only he could see, his grandmother sat smiling. Always there. Always encouraging. Always believing. After the concert, as Marcus took his bows, he realized something profound. He was the same person he had been a year ago. He still pushed a cleaning cart through hotel hallways at night. He still had rough hands and an aging body. He still struggled with bills and worried about the future, but he was also completely different. He had remembered who he was beneath the surface. He had found his voice again. And in doing so, he had given permission to others to find theirs. The hidden concert hall was no longer hidden. The silent piano was no longer silent. And Marcus Thompson, the 62-year-old janitor, had become something more. Not better, not more valuable, but more complete. More himself. He had played a simple tune in an empty hall and it had changed everything. Not because the tune was perfect, but because it was true. Not because he was talented, but because he was brave. Not because he was special, but because he remembered what everyone forgets sometimes. That inside each of us is music waiting to be played, beauty waiting to be expressed, dreams waiting to wake up. All it takes is the courage to open a hidden door and see where it leads. All it takes is the willingness to dust off something precious that has been silent too long. All it takes is the faith that it is never, ever too late to remember who you are and to share that truth with the world. Marcus Thompson had learned all of this from a piano in a forgotten concert hall. And he would spend the rest of his life sharing that lesson with anyone willing to listen. The janitor had played his simple tune, and the world had listened. And nothing would ever be quite the same again.